Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wrestling Inc. podcast, August 23rd for Tuesday, SmackDown Live. We had a big event last night, lots of returns, a few debuts, lots of newsworthy items. I'm Chris Callicutt, as always, joined by Wrestling Inc. owner and president, Mr. Giri. How are you, sir?
Good, man. How are you?
I am feeling, I guess, glorious would be the name of the day. And today we are joined by Sports Illustrated's Justin Barrasso. How are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely glad to have you. Let's jump right in, guys. We kicked off SmackDown Live with AJ Styles. A lot of people thought, with Bobby Roode backstage, we might see him kick off the show, but the United States champ comes out and issues a U.S. Open challenge. And again, thought we might see Bobby Roode there, but none other than Kevin Owens. The saga continues, and they had a nice little promo off. What did you guys think of this opening segment? Raj, to you?
I mean, it was just another, another way to forward the Shane McMahon, Kevin Owens feud. I don't know if this is leading to a singles match or Shane leading a team against Kevin Owens' team at Survivor Series, or if they could keep it going that long.
Yeah.
But, I thought it was interesting because the fact that Kevin could pick his own referee definitely opened up a lot of possibilities, and, it kept you guessing. So I liked it.
Justin?
I agree. I like that kind of comical aspect of, with Breezango. I wish they did a little bit more of that. I would have liked a spot from James Ellsworth, but, to be the referee. But I liked it. My issue with that match at SummerSlam was the same issue I had last night. I feel like the focus should be on Styles and Owens. Man, that SummerSlam match, it was all Shane McMahon, I felt like, and more the same last night. Baron Corbin was an odd fit as special guest referee. Is he even in that picture for the U.S. Championship? I don't know. I just wish the focus was more on Owens and Styles than Shane McMahon.
And now that that's over, Justin, where do you see them going with Styles?
That's a great question. You'd imagine they'd go with Baron Corbin, right? That was kind of implied last night, I think. Or it could have just been a throwaway. Corbin's so directionless now with no Cena, with no Money in the Bank briefcase. A run with Styles would at least make him look good because everybody looks good with Styles.
Yeah, and I think that's a good call, and it would help him immensely, as far as in the ring. Like you said, no one looks bad with Styles. So I agree. I think that should be the direction.
For me, this segment was good. I think Styles almost looked like a confident idiot in a way, but he's like, yeah, give him the referee he wants, give him the match that he wants. I'm like, oh no, I hope this doesn't come back to bite him. But we all saw this Shane and KO direction going, so I think maybe it culminates a Hell in a Cell between those two. And when it comes to Corbin, I think all this heat that we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks and how he's looked on the show, yes, they've put him down the card a little bit to the U.S. title, but I think this is a good spot for him. Like you said, with Styles, pretty much everybody looks good, so this might be a little rehab assignment for him.
Everything I'm hearing is, Vince kind of soured him because Cena spoke poorly of him because of his body. The body thing I find really odd because he hasn't changed his look. He's the same guy that won the Money in the Bank briefcase. I just find it really odd they'd sour so quickly on Corbin. I know we've seen it before, but I feel like that's the whole point of having two titles. The fact that you can give guys like Baron Corbin or Bray Wyatt or different types of Kevin Owens, you can make different guys champion and run with them. I'm disappointed that it came to a kind of a really anticlimactic finish with the briefcase.
It was something, but like you said, with Vince sort of changing his minds hourly instead of daily or monthly, you never know what could have went on with the Corbin thing, and it kind of made him look a little silly with the briefcase. But moving on, SmackDown general manager. Oh, sorry, Raj, go ahead.
Justin, did you hear anything about it being because of Corbin's stuff on social media where he was going back and forth with that military vet? If that contributed to him? Because that seems like a small thing to change big plans over.
And obviously they had big plans for him. I heard it was Cena. I heard the kiss of death with Cena that Corbin wasn't ready. But I can't get any more right now. That's kind of what I'm trying to work on as we speak. But I haven't heard about the social media. I mean, he's a heel, right? So we should play one on social media.
Right.
I don't think that was the issue. But then again, they kind of pick and choose who they defend in those cases, Raj. I don't know. But right now, I don't think that's the reason.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Backstage with General Manager Daniel Bryan, on his phone, sort of teases that he has a few surprises up his sleeve for tonight. And, of course, he did, that we find out later on. Then, who I'm now calling the Indian Ricardo Rodriguez's, the Singh brothers, who now has to make an entrance for WWE Champion Jinder Mahal every time he comes out anywhere, which is it's a good shtick, I guess. But Daniel gets called xenophobic, and Bryan says that Shinsuke Nakamura deserves better than what he got with the Singh brother interference the other night. Mahal's like, oh, no, not again. But Daniel makes it for Nakamura versus the Singh brothers later on. And upon that announcement, I'm like, this is either going to be kind of cool or it's going to be really bad. But we'll get to that match in just a moment. And Owens backstage looking for his quest for a referee. Sami Zayn, of all people, he runs into. And I thought they did a really nice job with this segment, teasing a bit of a heel turn possibility by Sami. It would give him a fresh coat of paint. And then Owens just had to say that one thing to take Sami away. What do you guys think of this segment? Justin, to you first this time.
I thought that was actually one of the highlights of the show. I love the fact that Zayn thought about it, because I think they kind of played on real life there. There is a real life friendship and connection. Owens just donated to Zayn's fundraiser. I loved it. And then when Owens threw in that line that you just mentioned, the fact that he hasn't done anything since being on SmackDown, it was a really nice touch. I thought that was one of the highlights. It's those subtleties and nuances that make Kevin great, and that was one of them right there last night. Raj mentioned the Hell in a Cell. I wonder if they could somehow transition to Zayn and Owens, because that actually felt fresh last night, which it hasn't. I mean, we've seen them so often together, but I thought last night that it actually felt kind of fresh. Maybe you transition to those two for Hell in a Cell. I feel like we've seen too much of Owens and Styles in the past, I feel like 2 weeks, but past 2 months.
Yeah, it feels like they've been going forever. I almost, it would be a fresh coat of paint if you had Owens and Sami back on the same page. I think everyone knows that they're friends in real life. So
right.
it would freshen them up. It's Owens is kind of not benefited much from the SmackDown move. He's gone from being the Universal Champion, being at the top of the card, to kind of being an afterthought. So I'd like to see them do more with them. It looks like Shane is who he's going to be feuding with for a while. It doesn't hurt to feud with the boss's son, because that word gets back to Vince if you impress. But I like the segment. It kind of played off of the fact that there was that show in Quebec where they teamed up a few weeks ago, and so it kind of kept you guessing because of that again. So I liked it, and Owens was fantastic with that line that Justin mentioned.
Yeah, I love that they actually sold some DVDs with this segment too. Zayn was like, "Yeah, I watched your DVD the other day," and I'm like, "Oh, come on, guys! Just the little things that you can pick in, and nobody really picks up on it." That was kind of neat too. But next segment, the artiste Aiden English out for a bit of a song, and we've become song heavy in WWE these days. You have Elias, you have R-Truth, and you have Aiden English, but from one song to possibly one of the best entrances in quite a while, Bobby Roode makes his debut on SmackDown Live. Were you guys happy to see this? Obviously, we all saw it coming. They didn't really try to hide him yesterday. And thanks to our readers for sending a few news tips, his pictures and photos, and his Tron, being tested in the arena and that fun stuff. But what do you guys think of Roode's appearance for the first match?
Let's start with Raj on this one.
Sure. First off, I thought it was kind of odd that it was so early in the show. I was expecting something more impactful, I guess. And also, I thought it was odd that he was positioned as a babyface. Now, granted, he was going to get a babyface pop anyway. But he seems miscast in that. And I don't know if fans will, it'll catch on or not. If it doesn't, I just see him as a heel, and I see him most effective as a heel. And I just don't know if this will work. In a month down the line, once the shine is worn off.
Justin?
I'm completely on board. I thought it was short-sighted. I liked the fact that they put him in there with Aiden English, but I wish we saw a heel Bobby Roode. I don't know. And I like Bobby Roode. I've liked it since his TNA days. I think he's very talented. I like the beer money runs. I just wonder that once you take off the robe, once the entrance music stops playing, can this guy really be a babyface? He's very cut and dry. He's built to be a villain and built to be a heel. I just don't see him as a babyface. I think, like you mentioned, he's gonna get a pop just because of that crowd in the Barclays. But I thought it was really strange that they have positioned him. Maybe you can turn him depending on who he feuds with, and you can see that vicious side of Bobby Roode. But I thought it was a really strange way to debut him as a babyface. But again, I guess we'll wait and see. I have a question for you guys, though, regarding the music.
Sure.
Would you rather have Aiden English or Elias sing Cult of Personality when they go to Chicago?
Oh, my God. That would either one would be fantastic. That's a heck of an idea.
I would say Elias, just because it's clear they have bigger plans for him, and he would get more heat for that. You know.
Oh, that crowd would erupt. Yeah,
that would be hilarious. That's a great idea.
That's pretty fantastic. But for me, I was shocked a little bit by the babyface Bobby Roode because his in-ring work to me screams heel. He's very methodical inside the ring, and we talked about this on a podcast just a few days ago, that he works as a heel. He's more slowly paced. I would like to see how he works as a babyface. If it's just going to be the same in-ring style, I'm not sure how long that luster lasts. But again, he's an entrance and he's a personality. So if anybody can maybe pull it off, then Bobby Roode probably can.
Do you think he would work as a babyface if he had different entrance music? Like, how much of his popularity as a fan favorite is just that song?
Right.
I remember people used to criticize Daniel Bryan, saying it was the yes chant. But people genuinely liked Daniel Bryan. They cared when he won or lost matches. With Bobby Roode, I don't get that same feeling. They cheer that entrance, and then it kind of ends there.
And it's odd that you'd have a guy, Bobby Roode's had almost a 2-decade career, give or take. It's odd that you take out of his wheelhouse in his biggest moment, and now you're going to change it a bit. It just seems like a bad idea.
I will say this, though. He looked absolutely elated to be there and to receive the pop that he got. And if he can keep that sort of same moniker going, I'm pretty confident that the babyface Bobby Roode would work, and then it'll set up for a major heel turn, and it'll be even better. And so I'm looking forward to this run by Bobby. But what I was shocked about last night was how competitive the match actually was. They gave Aiden English a lot. They let English put his finisher on Roode, and obviously Roode kicked out. But I thought that was an interesting move to put English in such a competitive match with Roode on his first night out.
Yeah, it seemed odd. I mean, it's like when they did that with Nakamura when he faced Ziggler at that pay-per-view, and just kind of killed his steam a little. Just to have this, you have plenty of time on the show. There was so much that they left off that you can do a short match and fit something else in. So I was surprised by that as well.
I wonder, I'm probably overthinking this. I wonder if it fits into that land of opportunity theme that SmackDown really presents week after week, that anybody could win. It's anybody's possibility. Maybe I'm just being naive and they just wanted to go 50-50 booking. But if the idea is anybody can beat anybody on SmackDown, I like it. I just don't know if that was part of the thinking behind that match.
Yeah. Who do you go with Roode for his first feud?
Hopefully they don't call back to this one because it was a competitive match. Honestly, I thought Orton had such a definitive win over Rusev that they might go Roode and Orton.
Well, Roode's a babyface, so I don't think.
Yeah, right. If they would have brought him in as a heel, that would have been the easy matchup, I think. But
yeah.
It's funny as a babyface. I would have thought Chad Gable. There's a lot of guys you could think of as a heel Bobby Roode.
Right.
Bobby Roode, Mike Kanellis, maybe he's needs something. I don't know.
I think that would bring Roode down if they did Mike Kanellis at this point. Right. Same as Aiden English. If they made it a long-term thing, I think it would have to be someone that they had been pushing, someone like a Rusev or Corbin.
Corbin would make sense.
Yeah, and then that way, you can have him beat him, and it's beating a name, but not,
How about a disgruntled Dolph Ziggler, since he was a little get off my lawn, old man type of mantra last night?
Ziggler would make sense. At this point, Rusev, what's the difference, right? I mean, they book him so poorly. You may as well give Roode that rub, but Roode or Ziggler both would work really well. And
Ziggler kind of has that first feud for a guy on the main roster anyway. He was Corbin's first feud, and Nakamura's and others. So I could definitely see that.
Absolutely. And what I did like about the end of this segment, they did an in-ring promo with Roode, with Renee Young. I thought that felt a little old school. I thought that was a nice touch because, the Roode character is a little bit old school as well. But moving on from a debut to a return, Shelton Benjamin is back with the WWE. We announced this a few weeks ago that he was officially signed after coming off of his injury, and apparently will be teaming up with Chad Gable. So give me this. Absolutely, give me all of this. I'm excited about this little team. And Raj, what did you think about A, the return, and 2, the pairing with Gable?
I thought it seemed kind of odd. Honestly, it's like, oh, you lost a black partner? Well, here's another one. I don't know. It just seemed weird. Like, why would Shelton be teaming with Chad Gable? Like, what is their connection? So, I'm all for Shelton coming back. We've seen many times in the past where Shelton gets a push and it just dissolves. It's just nothing's ever happened. And I hope it's different this time, but from everything I've seen with the people that they have brought back, it hasn't. So, I know fans are going nuts over Shelton being back, and they go nuts over everyone coming back, but it fades quick, and I could see this happening. But SmackDown does need more tag teams, and it was weird how huge Shelton looked next to Chad Gable. He was a step closer to the. He was a step closer to the camera too, though. I think because Daniel Bryan made Gable look huge. I mean, Daniel Bryan looked huge versus Gable. Well, as a production person, wouldn't you want to switch that?
Exactly. No, I agree.
A younger star look bigger. So anyway, I'm all for it. I mean, they need more tag teams and stuff. I just thought it was kind of odd the way it was done, like just do it in a backstage segment as opposed to come up with an organic story that would explain.
Right.
Doing it. Like Chad Gable just saying, I found a new partner, boom, it's Shelton or something like that.
Or Gable getting beat down by some team, and it just seems like such an odd fit. It seems like it doesn't have any legs. It won't last. I still think Shelton Benjamin, I would have preferred they go in the land of opportunity. Benjamin could be a world champion. I don't know why it just seems like Gable could be a single star. I don't know why it seems like a lazy booking decision that you just throw Shelton back into a tag team. Like you said, too, there's no connection. I wish there was, but maybe – and I'd like to think they'll connect the dots with Jason Jordan. I don't know. I think they'd like a reboot of the whole Jason Jordan mess. So, I don't know. The whole thing's difficult.
You know what it reminded me of is like when Charlotte and the women's revolution, when all the women from NXT debuted, and Stephanie McMahon is like, you guys are on this team, and you guys are on this team, and you guys are on this team.
No story behind it.
No story, yeah. And it's not that hard. Like I said, just have Chad say, I found a partner, and or you can do something with the whole Breezango bit, where they, that mystery attacker or something, just anything, as opposed to just being assigned a partner.
And what a strange decision to do. Like you said, Shelton Benjamin, unless they were tone deaf, is going to get a huge pop from that crowd at the Barclays. Why would you do that backstage? Like, that's an in-ring moment. I just thought they missed a big opportunity there.
Yeah. So I love that Shelton's back. I think he's talented as hell. He hasn't lived up to his potential since leaving WWE. I thought his stuff in New Japan was disappointing. But hopefully he's motivated and we can see a strong run from him. But as we've seen with WWE bringing back these legends, the Hardys were a no-brainer. They're in an empty arena match. You just see they don't capitalize on bringing back these legends. It's like they have it in their head that these guys are old and need to put young talent over. And when they have a lot of money to make with these guys.
Can we discuss the Hardys for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was outrageous on Monday Night on Raw. We see the Hardys versus the Shield. That's a pay-per-view quality match. That could even be a big pay-per-view match. That's a huge feud. And that's a throwaway match on Raw where Jeff Hardy gets pinned clean. Oh, I mean, that gave me an upset stomach at the end of that match. Like, that's such a big moment. I don't understand how you blow Hardy Shield for the first time ever on a throwaway match on Raw.
Yeah. That's the biggest tag match that they have in the whole company.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah, and just a throwaway match with a clean finish. It's one thing if they did it and it led to a schmoz where it leads to a feud, and that was the beginning of the feud. But yeah, just to throw it away with a clean finish is mind-boggling.
I felt like I was watching 1999 or 2000 Nitro. It was that. What am I watching? Yeah, you're right. That is the biggest tag match in the company, and they gave it no build-up, and they just discarded it. Yeah, so frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big match to give away, but I get what they were doing. They wanted to reestablish as a definitive team, being Ambrose and Rollins. But in regards to the Shelton Benjamin thing, if I'm him, right, I'm a veteran. My bump card's filling up. I've been around the world. Do I really want to come back for a huge singles run, or do I want to let my young up-and-coming partner do all the work for me, and then I come in as a hot tag and do my work? Just from a booking and in-ring work standpoint, that's sort of the way I feel about it. And I think they could do the whole taking Gable under his wing type of thing, and the story could build itself. But one thing that they could have done, when Gable and Jordan first got together in NXT, Gable was hilarious in bugging Jordan to be his partner. I thought they could bring some semblance of that back to maybe Shelton over the next few weeks, and then they become a team.
Yeah, you could have had Shelton. You could have had Shelton come out for a singles match, big surprise, big pop, and then at the end, Chad Gable comes out, asks him, saying he wants.
It's like the annoying little brother or annoying little fan or something like that, and because that's what he did in NXT, that would have been the perfect story that they could rehash.
Yes, a couple people in the comment section think Shelton's turning heel. So, that would be kind of cool if Shelton turned on Chad Gable and that led to a feud. So that would make it kind of worth it. But
that'd be kind of a fun singles match, I'm not going to lie. Owens and Sammy backstage. Sammy officially turns in his referee shirt, turns down the offer of Owens. And next up we have the Hype Bros versus the Usos. Hype Bros came back to not crickets, very loud crickets. Definitely not a huge response for the Hype Bros, but Usos another big response, and I thought maybe this wasn't going to be filler. I thought maybe they would try to reestablish the Hype Bros here, but not so much. Usos with a pretty clean win here.
Yeah, I think it's clear once you're at the lower level on the tag team stage, it's hard to get back up. They have it in their minds that that's where you're set. And so, I thought they were going to do something at the end of this match to either establish new contenders for the Usos or something. Almost felt like there might be a call-up or something there. But, it was just kind of, a good one for the Usos, who I think have been on fire.
And I think I'd be very concerned if I was watching that match as Gable and Benjamin, if there's no plan for a split. Like, to me, that's their future. They're probably going to be in that match putting over the champs like the Usos or New Day or whomever that is. That was my concern with that match. But I think you're right. Like, I was thrilled that the Usos won the titles back at SummerSlam. They've been great. They've showed a lot of personality, kind of against the odds. They were so different as baby faces. So
completely.
They've looked great.
And with that, the thing that's great about the Usos, I think, is that they still seem themselves. Like that, they don't seem like they're playing a character. Like they come across as that's how they are. And
that's them turned up to 11, essentially. Yeah.
If they turn up to 50, when they're given the mic and can go, they're on fire. So, with the New Day, I love their feud with the New Day. They had awesome matches. I thought they had some of the more entertaining segments, like the rap battle. But they need new tag teams, and WWE needs to figure out ways with the women too to have more than one feud. Like if you're not in the title feud, to have another feud, so people aren't just sitting around waiting, because there's no reason why you can't have more than one tag team feud on a show.
Right.
And an interesting point there too is I know that the Shield has history, which makes it more meaningful. We talked about Owens and Zayn. Like when you have two single stars who don't have any program going, like you may as well bring them back to have them tag together, build up that division. Like Owens and Zayn would be really fun in the tag division, even if they weren't sure if they could trust one another. It would give the Usos somebody to work with, the New Day someone to work with, and then you can always bring them back. It wouldn't kill them to when you break the team. Yeah, I wish they had a little bit more spice in the tag team division. I think you have to bring in single stars like they did with the Shield on Raw, but I don't know if they'll go that direction on SmackDown.
Yeah, the Shield is a great example because Seth and Dean were both kind of treading water. They weren't doing much, and now they're hot again. And I mean, their match at SummerSlam turned that show around. That show was kind of dying up until that point.
Both tag team matches were great. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it like went up with New Day and the Usos, then was dying, and then the Shield brought them back.
Shield, yeah.
With this post-match promo, I kind of thought maybe Authors of Pain would have been called up for the Usos. I mean, that would have been a heel versus heel matchup, but then you have these two behemoth destruction type of guys on versus the Usos. That would at least been a slightly different feel, but nobody came out after the Usos promo. After the show, Ryder did sort of tease a little tension on Twitter, even though they didn't play that out on television. So we'll see the direction of the Hype Bros as we move along. Let's see. Nakamura shown walking backstage, and his match is up next. And it was a full handicap match, 2-on-1. Shinsuke Nakamura versus the Singh brothers. This was probably exactly what it should have been, like 5 to 6 minutes of Nakamura showing his personality, getting his strikes in, and the Singh brothers selling like $1 million. Justin, what'd you think?
Yeah, I agree. Part of me wanted, I like the Singh brothers so much. Part of me wanted to see them show a little more, but I don't think you could there just because that was Nakamura's moment. You're putting him over in that main event spot. Yeah, I agree. They sell fantastically well. They got the I thought it was odd they put Nakamura over at the end over Jinder. I would have had Jinder go over there, build up the idea that Nakamura can't beat him when it's 3-on-1. But yeah, I mean, I thought the whole segment, it wasn't anything spectacular. It wasn't terrible, but it got across what they needed to get across.
Yeah, and Justin, I disagree with you a little there because I thought it did show that. Like it showed that with Jinder's guys down, then Nakamura can take him out. Because he didn't have the guys with him. I
wonder where they're going with this, though. I still wonder if that's the thing, too. That was such a bad match at SummerSlam. Like, just the personalities, the chemistry wasn't there. I wonder where they go next. And wouldn't the logical thing, it's pro wrestling, why are we playing logic? But wouldn't the logical thing just be to ban the Singh brothers from ringside? I don't know. I mean, that's why babyface commissioners or GMs are such a tough gig. But right. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if Hell in a Cell was a SmackDown pay-per-view, that would make all the sense in the world. You do the Hell in a Cell match, but then as we saw with the Punjabi prison, they're still able to get in.
Even Owens Jericho last year, Jericho got into that match.
Right, and a shark cage doesn't work, as we've seen with Enzo.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they've got to do something where. The problem is they just do that same finish over and over, and it's just I think that helped kill the match. It was pretty bad up until that point, and then that just killed it. And just
the only thing I'll say to that, though, if they do that same finish, it's already tired and it's August. If they do that same finish over and over again till Mania, I think it'd be so dreaded and awful. Like, it'd be so bad it's good. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if that's the plan. I'm okay with that. If they last this thing till April of next year, had the Singhs help win every match, it'd be so bad that I could get behind it. But that can't be the plan, can it? I don't know.
No, there's got to be a shortened. They've got to take it off of him before then. But
I think the fact that they do keep doing that, and you now almost expect it. So when they finally it backfires or something, that will be a huge pop. That will be big. But is Nakamura going to ultimately end up winning the WWE title? You guys think with this feud, or is it just not his time right now?
I think he gets it on his next try. I think they're figuring out that the Mahal thing is running out of legs a little bit. I think Nakamura, that if you're going to strike, I think the time's now. It has to be before he loses any more luster himself.
I completely agree, but I don't think they're going to go that. I agree. Nakamura should be champion. I just think they're going to wait. Like, they've got an odd history of waiting in that company. I don't think he gets it. I think they stick with Jinder. I'm sticking with the idea he keeps the belt till Mania, which seems crazy, but I'd love to see Nakamura as champion. I think, like you said, that's the key point. Like, you want to do it now while he's hot. Why wait? But I feel like they're going to wait with Nakamura, and I don't know. I hope Jinder picks up some more steam because I really like him as champ.
Yep. Yeah, I just wish he would. He needs to work with better guys, on the road and get more experience in longer matches. And this is something me and Matt Morgan argue about this every Monday because Matt's a big Jinder fan, and I like Jinder. I think he's improved a lot. I think he looks the part. And he looks, I mean, he's made the changes with the beard, the hair, that he looks way more like a main eventer than he did years ago.
Right.
But he went from being jobbed out in 3-minute squash matches to, you know, having to have 15-minute main event matches. And that's a big shift. And not having that experience, being just thrown into it, you know, it's kind of not fair. So it would be good to see him on the road, working with better guys like Sami Zayn, and where he could get more experience working these longer matches.
But that's why I don't understand why you had John Cena there and you chose not to pair. Like, Cena's the right guy to put him on the road with. Even for a couple of weeks, you think that'd be beneficial. I don't understand why they didn't, like, to Jinder's benefit, pair him with Cena even for a short period of time.
Right. No, I thought so too. I thought that's where they were going, you know, when they first announced the Cena Nakamura match.
But quick little tidbit for me on this SmackDown match, I'd liked, and I agree with Raj in this situation, that they didn't go 50-50 booking. They didn't have Nakamura win the match, and then Mahal gets his heat right back. He got a little bit back, and then Nakamura flattened everybody. So Nakamura stood tall after the win, which I thought was a nice little change of pace from what WWE normally does. Moving on, Kevin Owens.
Real quick. So they're going to be going, basically, the next pay-per-view is not until October for SmackDown. So that's a long time to keep this program going. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. It's because TLC is at the end of October. So, and I'm guessing that's their plan. It's October 22nd. So we got 2 full months before the next SmackDown pay-per-view.
That's eternity. For
WWE, yes.
Yeah.
Kevin Owens backstage, walking with his referee shirt in hand. Tyler Breeze, Fandango almost shoot him. That was a close call, guys. Very close call. But they kind of stood up to be the referee. Kevin said no, mostly because they were wearing pineapple rompers. Quick little fashion statement by Breezango there. But it was good that they made the show, because I guess apparently their show's not coming back on until next week, according to the graphic the week before. So nice little comedic segment. These guys work well together.
I mean, Breezango, I'd like to see them do more with them on screen, I mean, in the ring. The backstage segments are cute and everything, but they're going to run its course. You do it every week. So
I feel like they're on the fine line of, I think they're great, but they're in the fine line of, like, they can become the bushwhackers or they can become something a lot more. It's what they do in the ring, because you're right. There's such a short shelf life for funny backstage interviews when you don't back it up in the ring. And those guys can work. I don't know. I really hope that they are allowed to show what they can do in the ring. A tag team title run, even briefly, would really benefit them. It would go a long way.
Yeah, it would definitely legitimize what they've been doing, because they've been consistently one of the more entertaining acts on the show. And like I said, I was just, since they weren't necessarily advertised, glad to see that they made the card, even if it was for a 30-second, comedic interview. But
the New Day return actually kind of was bad timing for them, because they were really positioned to take those titles until the New Day came back.
Yeah,
very true, very true. After Owens gets
guys, real quick, a couple of people are reminding me that a correction: Hell in a Cell is actually a SmackDown pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So it's TLC that's Raw. So Hell in the Cell is on October 8th.
8th. Okay, so 6 weeks.
So yeah, I guess that does make sense to have Jinder and Nakamura and that keeps the Singh brothers out theoretically.
Until they get it. Right.
Until they get it.
But right after they get rid of Breezango, Corbin comes in, and again, I thought this was out of left field, but Corbin says if Owens gets the title back, he wants first shot, and kind of agrees. We don't know how shady that deal would have been, but he gets the referee's shirt. Corbin's your special guest referee for later in the evening. Next up, we had Becky Lynch and Naomi versus Natalya and Carmella. I loved this Carmella James Ellsworth pre-match promo. I didn't care much for Natty's just because it's a lot of the same. She's never been that great on the mic. She's always been a workhorse in the ring. But I love the Carmella Ellsworth reaction. Pretty much Ellsworth's like, here's what we're doing. And Carmella's like, shut up. But I thought that was neat. Justin, what do you think of this, just your opening segment before the match here?
I do think it's funny, though, and they don't use the term women's revolution much anymore, but it's really, about the women performing in the ring and how they're able to shine on their own. And really, we see the guy shining the biggest light right now on the women's division is James Ellsworth. I think he's great in that role. He's my favorite heater since China. I thought last night was some of his best work. He's perfect in that role. I mean, I'm sure Carmella dumps him at some point, but not for a while. But man, was he good last night. I agree. The Natty thing, she kind of is what she is by now. There's so much potential for Carmella, particularly with Ellsworth at her side. I can't wait for that cash in. I can't wait for that celebration. I can't wait for that title run. So they're doing a good job with that for sure.
Yeah, I wish they'd make Carmella look a little more like she does belong in there, though. Like, they make her look really weak in these matches. But I thought it was good. I mean, I think they're entertaining. I enjoy every time they're out there. Natalya, to your point with their promos, the problem is I think everyone just feels like she's a really nice person that's trying to act like a heel.
Yeah, that's true.
She's a little miscast as a heel. But because there's a great story there that she's been there for the company for that long and winning the title back. And I think that's something fans could get behind, but they're like, so set in that Natalya's a heel and has to be a heel that you go with the way that doesn't quite gel. But
could talk about her husband. She's got a great story, but there a lot of things they're shying away from. But even you mentioned the booking in the match with Carmella, like the finish of that match. Mm-hmm. The fact that she would focus, there's two women behind her and she'd be oblivious to it. Yeah, I didn't like the booking there. I'm sure it's a throwaway. They didn't care. But I think for those of us who are, interested in the actual breakdown of the match, it didn't benefit her. But I think she'll recover pretty quickly. They'll just move on from it.
Yeah.
The match itself, I thought, was more than fine. I liked the mini callback between Becky and Natalya from the week before. They had a nice little one-on-one interaction, mostly during the commercial break. But if you pay attention to those kind of things, they had a nice little interaction. Naomi, Becky pick up the win here, pretty much like Justin said. Carmella got distracted by James and Natalya. So easy win, not necessarily easy, but a win for the faces, no cash in. Now that they did not do it at SummerSlam, because honestly, I thought since they took Corbin's opportunity away, I thought SummerSlam was the time to do it. So how long do you think Carmella waits now? Justin?
I can't wait till it happens next Tuesday, but I'm going to say the opposite. I think that they love having one briefcase around. So I think that'll last, I'm going to say through the winter, like through Thanksgiving. I wonder if it can last till the Rumble. I don't know if they can tell that story that long, but they love to draw out the briefcase story, which is why I was shocked that Corbin just went away with no story. I'm going to say it lasts till 2018 at least.
Yeah. I could, because it's 1 year, right? It's not that it expires at Mania. It's 1 year. So, I mean, they could do it the night after Mania, or something like that. So they got a lot of time to work with it. No need to rush it and do it right away. But the Corbin thing, it's clear that, he's got heat on him. But if he didn't have heat, I actually like when they do where the cash-in doesn't automatically result in them winning the title, because it keeps it more questionable. Like, will it happen or not? Now, in the case of someone like Corbin, then you should have him go on to beat Cena at the pay-per-view. So he keeps his, he keeps some steam. And, with Carmella, who knows if she cashes in and wins the title, or it's another one, a failed cash-in. But I like the fact that they do the failed cash-ins now, because it adds a little more unpredictability.
Just that moment. I love that moment when Corbin came down to the ring with the briefcase. Kyoto rang the bell. I was waiting for them to somehow get themselves out of it, because there was it was too sudden. It was too quick. But I agree. Like the briefcase makes Carmella relevant, and it would have continued to make Corbin relevant. Yeah, it's too bad that I don't mind him losing, like you said. It's just the fact that then he loses to Cena the next night. Now he's direction, no steam. Right. But I did find that really strange.
Yeah.
All right. Up next, a bit of a return. Dolph Ziggler back on SmackDown after several weeks, almost, I guess, months at this point, off of television. He runs down pretty much every single gimmick in the book that WWE has on the roster right now. He says, I know what it takes to be a star. I could sing, dance, play guitar, stuff like that. But I wonder if him being, throwing shade at creative is now his new gimmick. If so, I love it. I think it's nicely nuanced there. But if he's just going to be the grumpy old man that comes back to put over some baby faces, then which is probably what's going to happen. But what do you see in Dolph Ziggler's futures now that he's sort of moving down the card a little bit and moving up in age?
The die has been cast on Ziggler for a long time. You know, they have him pegged at a certain. You know, it's crazy to think he was in the WWE Championship match at last year's SummerSlam. But you know, that was clearly just a throwaway match, so they could do the real match at the next pay-per-view because SummerSlam was already stacked. But yeah, Ziggler. I mean, he's done that promo so many times where he's frustrated with creative, or you know, needs to get back on track. Hopefully he does get repackaged a little, changes it up. But you know, he turned heel. That did absolutely nothing for him. He was like losing to Kalisto the next week. So yeah, I don't see much from it. You know, Randy Orton needs someone to feud with, so maybe they throw Ziggler at him for a little bit. But yeah, I just don't see much coming out of this.
He reminds me of like a Bizarro World blonde pretty boy Bray Wyatt. Good on the mic. Dude's going nowhere. Like, and I love Ziggler. It's just too bad. I still debate, and it probably wouldn't have worked. But like, what if you'd went with the Miz Taraj guys, established guys like Zack Ryder and the Miz? Maybe they could have gone a different direction with that. Where I don't know, they would. I think they'd be great, those three together. You'd probably have. Would you need to have the Miz in charge? Even the Miz and Ziggler, I think, would be a fun, cocky tag team.
Yeah.
Yep. Like, that'd be different. The Miz definitely, even though he's Intercontinental Champion, couldn't get on the SummerSlam card in a singles match. Definitely needs something. Like, that'd be a fun. And are we really going back to Miz and Cena? Oh, but I hope that, I would love to see Ziggler and Miz together, working together, just because they have such chemistry. And, man, Ziggler has no direction. For a guy that talented, I feel like he could, if he was in New Japan, could contend for their title. But I know WWE's looking for some different things in terms of their entertainment scope. It's not just pro wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, Ziggler and Miz on the same side would be something new and different. And you know, because the problem, I said this from the beginning when they paired Miz with Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, is unless you start posing Axel and Bo Dallas as a threat on their own, like getting some wins as a tag team, they're just going to be looked as jobbers the whole time. It's just Miz and a couple of jobbers. And what you said, yeah, I think that would have been a good idea if they did, you know, have Ziggler move to Raw and do something with him. I think that would have been a great idea, and given them both a spark, because they're creative guys and they could have probably come up with some fun stuff.
Raj, if you're going to put Bo Dallas in a stable, why wouldn't you just make him, you know, you have a cult leader without a cult in Bray Wyatt. I don't see why Bray and Bo. Bray needs some help too. They'd be really good together. Yeah, I read someplace, it was funny, at SummerSlam, it was a cult leader without a cult versus a club leader without a club. But I don't know. A lot of more questions than answers.
Right.
Alrighty, up next, Lana backstage with Tamina. She's talking on the phone before Tamina sort of gets there. Says she will see someone next week. So not sure how much we'll even need to read into that, but she now becomes this little motivational speaker to Tamina, pretty much making her her new Rusev, more or less, I would suppose. And pretty much says that the ravishing reign of terror shall begin soon. Tamina apparently goes with the gimmick, looks intense, ready to go. So I believe she'll be in the ring next week. Do you see anything coming out of this at all? I mean, I'm liking that there's a secondary women's storyline here, but what do you see coming of this situation, Raj?
Not much, honestly. What do you think, Justin?
I thought they buried Tamina the second they brought her back. It was a SmackDown. Shane McMahon built to a big Hall of Famer's daughter, second-generation star, and we all knew it was Charlotte, and they brought Tamina out as a joke. And you're making this monster into a joke. I thought they lost her with the crowd there. She doesn't have a lot of personality. You know, I guess she can be a heater. Maybe she could. I mean, she worked well with, Santino a bunch of years ago. But, yeah, I mean, I like the fact they're trying different angles with different women on SmackDown better than they do on Raw, but I'm with Raj on this one. There's nowhere to go with this. I mean, and then Lana will be back with, I assume, Rusev, and Tamina's off camera. It's a tough one, but I don't see any direction, any future behind it.
Yeah, I thought they were going to where, Tamina would eventually turn on Lana and make Lana the sympathetic babyface, and that still may happen if plans go awry. But
it's just such a waste when you got Rusev there that is so much better with Lana.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such a natural pairing, and they work well. They're married, but they add so much to each other's character, and it's just going to waste.
Unlike the Shelton Benjamin backstage segment, which we discussed, why is that backstage? Like they're smart to put these ones backstage because I feel like Barrasso would have ate that up and spit that out had that occurred in the ring.
Yeah,
they would have just found the beach ball to play with. So
Cena liked the beach ball, right? I still can't get over the fact that Cena applauded their use of having fun with the beach ball, but I don't know.
Well, and also WWE tweeted about the beach ball, and they gave it dedicated camera time during a match, which I thought all of the above were huge mistakes. Now you're going to have people sneaking in beach balls every week, and I get, people pay their money, they want to do what they want to do, and they're disenfranchising the product by doing that. But the matches that they've been doing it this weekend, to me, weren't the matches that deserved it. And you had some good matches that some nonsense was going on.
Starting with Shield and the Shield versus Cesaro and Sheamus. Like, I know they've got camera time there because Cesaro went in the crowd and ripped it up. It should have began and ended right there. It didn't need to be. You didn't need Cena to put it over, which is beyond.
That's stupid.
Oh, insane. Yeah.
You would think Cena, of all people, would know better than that with his decades plus of experiences with the crowd, and to endorse it is just mind-numbing.
To pander to them, it just seems really strange.
Yeah. I was saying this on Monday. I almost feel like senioritis, that Cena has one foot out the door and wants to look as good as possible.
Doesn't care, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the beach ball, I feel like that's something you see at a high school graduation. So maybe it all fits. Yeah.
Yep. Almost main event time, but on the way to the ring, Corbin confronts AJ Styles, basically looking to cut a deal. Says Owens, he could get the first shot of Owens one. He offers the same deal to AJ. AJ said, well, if I win, I'm going to bring back the U.S. Open Challenge so you can get shot next week. And that leads us right to the match. Kevin Owens versus AJ Styles for the U.S. title with Corbin as your referee. And, guys, I really do miss the color-changing spotlights entrance. I don't like this new Baron Corbin entrance.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just going to take some getting used to, or but that was all part of the plan to make Baron Corbin more of a main event guy, was to change his music up and make some changes to his character. So, I mean, we're seeing them still do that, even though he's clearly derailed a little bit from going to the top.
For sure.
Yeah. I thought Corbin made the most of a tough situation. How do you get yourself over? It's really not your job as the referee. You're supposed to be you're important, but you're a subtle part of that match. I thought he did as best as he could in that match. I thought it was interesting when he was going to throw the shirt in Shane's face. I don't know if you guys are basketball fans, but Robert Ory did that to Danny Ainge years ago. But you could tell Shane didn't want the cameo of the ref shirt in his face. He made sure to grab it before. But I thought Corbin, all things considering, you want, will that lead next week to a Styles Corbin feud, which is so great, or you can build to it. If not, what are we doing?
Yeah, that seems to be the natural direction. And, refereeing is said to be one of the toughest gigs in wrestling. And I thought Corbin did a really nice job just of doing the actual mechanics and everything like that, because I didn't notice that if he had an earpiece in. I don't think he did, whereas Shane did during SummerSlam. So if he went out there without an earpiece, not really getting directions from the back, I thought he did a really nice job just as the special zebra. The match itself was not one to write home about. I thought this was one of their weaker one-on-one matches, but of course you had all the drama on the side. Shane ends up coming out, does not like the way that Corbin is refereeing the match because he missed a couple of little spots there, very similar to what Shane did at SummerSlam. Kevin Owens hits a low blow unbeknownst to Baron, and then Baron goes for the 1-2-3. Shane pulls him off of the cover, and that's when he gives up his stripes to Shane McMahon. And then it was a phenomenal forearm and a victory shortly thereafter. Styles retains. Just overall thoughts on this match, Raj?
I thought it was fun. It kept you guessing. Um, yeah, I mean, it was all just to build, Shane and Kevin Owens forward, and it's in the main event of the show. I think that's always been a problem with the McMahons, is when they're involved, that's the top angle. And, and the gender stuff was earlier in the show. I mean, that really should have been the main event. I mean, make the world title be the main thing. And that feud should be the top, so I was fine with the match, fine with how they did it, but I don't like the placement of it, I guess.
I agree. Should have flipped with the Jinder Nakamura Singh brothers. The thing I did like about it is, and Owens is so good at his role, but he has obviously, like, he had his foot on the rope, Styles, on Sunday, and last night there was definitely a low blow. But storyline wise, Owens has just enough to make a point. Mm-hmm. He doesn't seem like a cartoon character. In fact, he's almost sympathetic at times. Kevin Owens is so good at his job, so good at his craft, that you want to believe Owens. You want to get behind him. But I agree. It reminded me of, how many SummerSlams ago was it? The Bella Steph McMahon match.
Oh, yeah.
And that closed out a Raw. It's like, that's a really strange placement. And I felt like that watching SmackDown last night, that just because, like you said, it was a McMahon involved, it wouldn't have superseded Brock on Raw. It shouldn't have superseded Jinder and Nakamura. And I think that's part of the problem too. Why do we care about Jinder and Nakamura when it's kind of just oddly placed in the middle of the show? That should be your focal point. That should be the integral component of that show, is Jinder and Nakamura. So I think that's part of the problem with the lack of chemistry there. Like, they got to put the right attention on it too.
Yeah, it's an odd fit on SmackDown because it is 2 hours. You see on a 3-hour Raw, sometimes they'll put their de facto main event at the top of the 10 o'clock hour and not the 11 o'clock hour now. But with SmackDown only being 2 hours, I tend to agree. But this was a championship match, whereas the Nakamura Mahal stuff was not. So I kind of don't mind it being put in the main event slot here. But looking back, and Justin, you've sort of done a lot with the whole talking smack situation, and naturally we would have gotten that after this, but it has been canceled. Decent SmackDown show last night, but after they did a lot of resets with the storylines, it would have been good to have a talking smack. Tell us sort of everything that you've broken down with the talking smack situation.
I thought last night, it's funny you say that, I thought last night would have been great for the Usos to really shine with their personality, having won the titles at SummerSlam, getting a big win last night. You could have had Owens on last night, and you could have had Corbin on, you could have had Shane on. Talking smack, so well done, but Vince isn't a weekly presence at SmackDown anymore. The times he was there, you noticed too, they had different. Obviously, Brian was away on paternity leave, but they had JBL in that spot. They had Shane McMahon in that spot. He didn't think it fit the overall big picture, and he's probably right, Vince. It didn't fit the overall picture,
sure,
but it was just so entertaining. And I liked how they said it's ratings or it's money. No, the guys are there. It takes nothing to produce, very little to produce, I should say. Ratings, there are no ratings. It's the network. Mm-hmm. It's such a missed opportunity to get guys over. But I think you saw, in their opinion at least, a lot of guys kind of go into business for themselves, even though it ultimately was best for their product. I think it's a huge, critical mistake, and one that they're going to feel in 2017, because that was an organic way to get guys over in a manufactured business.
Yep, and I believe Corbin and the Usos were two of the better ones in the talking smack.
Well, Miz benefited so much.
Miz. Mm-hmm.
Like, you pick one guy that really benefited the most, and it's definitely him.
Mm-hmm. Miz, Owens, the Usos. I agree with all those.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame because, it's just a shame that you can't let these guys own their characters and let them, bring their own spin on it. Because you can only go so far with a scripted promo, and what they have scripted for you. So it's just taking the organic part out of wrestling, which it so badly needs.
And that's the missing ingredient, right? And you can't force organic moments, but you're 100% right. Like, one of the problems with Kurt Angle, I feel like he's been over scripted. He's been, like, we haven't seen, maybe we saw it in that Enzo and Cass segment on his first night back or the second night back, whatever it was, on Raw, the How You Doing, but man, it's just so scripted. And I think we want to get to know even when Bliss won the women's title and she cried a little bit on Talking Smack after show, well, it was meaningful. Like we saw a real side of her, then she went back to her character and turned it up. But yeah, it's such a missed opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Quick injury update. WWE provided an update on Big Cass's knee. Looks like it is an ACL injury with a possible meniscus tear as well. So I think the current timetable is around 9 months or so. Is that right, Raj?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. And man, you talk about the worst time possible.
Yep.
You know, he's getting the big push. He got the big win over the Big Show. Obviously, they had plans for him. You know, and gosh, you just hate to see, because it's one thing if it happens to an established star like a Triple H. When they come back, they get the gigantic pop and they're bigger than ever.
Right.
When it happens to someone that's just starting to rise, it's just really sucks. So yeah, it's unfortunate.
Even if they embellished, a lot of times WWE will embellish the months out. So say it's 7 instead of 9, and he comes back soon. That's still a long time, right? Yeah, it's hard because Cass was just starting to grow, and he has no legs behind his singles push yet, but he's starting to. What inopportune timing.
Yeah.
And if you do the math, he's not going to be back in time before Mania. So it's going to pretty much, he has to be this whole reset button after they hit their reset button after WrestleMania next year. Maybe he can rekindle something, or they can put them back together randomly, Enzo and Cass, because that might be what Cass needs to keep him back over if Enzo actually stays with the company until next year.
Because I thought the Cass, funny you mentioned that too. I thought the Rumble was going to be his coming out party. It reminded me a lot of what they did with Reigns.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Could have been
Yeah.
that Kevin Nash and
Strowman.
Another guy. Yeah, I always think of Diesel when he eliminated 6 straight guys, 7 straight. Like that was his moment here are coming up. But what a shame. What a shame.
Yeah.
All righty. And the other big news from last night, Jones failed a drug test at UFC 214 and has been stripped of the light heavyweight title.
So Dana White's saying he has not been stripped yet. So TMZ originally said that he was stripped, but that's the way it's going to go. Yeah,
you would think so.
And I think the B sample's already in. So, I mean, Brock Lesnar must be pissed.
Vince McMahon just got all the leverage he needed.
Well, it's not like they can't have Brock fight someone else.
Well, sure, but that was the money fight, though. That was the money fight.
That was the money fight. Man, Jon Jones, good God.
How many chances is this guy going to get? How many failed tests is this at this point?
Well, this is technically only one.
Oh, well, okay. Well, he's just so many different chances, so many different situations that he's fell short professionally or in fights or whatever. But to be one of the better fighters in the world and make all that money, have his name on the marquee is just a lot of chances to dwindle down the drain a little bit.
If I'm UFC, I change direction, right? Because I don't know what the Lesnar, if they updated it, because they already advertised it for next year's SummerSlam. And I know Lesnar Jones is a dream match, but to me, that's a passing of the torch, right? Lesnar definitely loses that match. Jones would just be too quick, too difficult for him. I feel like that's a passing of the torch, and you're going to make Jon Jones, you're going to try to at least make him your new Conor McGregor for the UFC. But now I'd go a different direction. To me, the money match, the big one left is Miocic and Brock. I put Brock in the main event of the heavyweight title match. You can't put the title on him, but you give him the chance to. I would make it Brock and Steppy and have that be the big match, and maybe Brock can. Miocic's one of the greatest heavyweights in the world, but he can't draw the kind of attention that Brock can get. I think we forget that Brock's such a great talker just because he never speaks in WWE, but he's gold on the mic for UFC. So I don't know if I'm UFC and I need a jolt because this Jones news is horrible. What happens to McGregor next Saturday? Who knows? I would want Lesnar in that main event picture for my heavyweight championship. I think we buy that fight.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think it'd be huge. I know MMA fans would be upset because Lesnar's technically has no wins.
Right. Doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
Right, because
jumps the card just a little bit.
Right, because his fight over Mark Hunt was changed to a no contest. But that is probably their best option. I think they're going for the UFC heavyweight title because the light heavyweight, there's no other. Cormier doesn't have the same zazz as Jon Jones, and there's really no one else. There's UFC for as great a job as they did with McGregor and Rousey. they have no other stars right now that are, you know, they got GSP who's been there forever and Anderson Silva, but new stars that would benefit from a fight like this. So yeah, I agree. I think Miocic, I feel bad for Brock in that fight, but
yeah,
but
you don't think it would end well if you're Brock, but
yeah,
it's a big money fight, and it's. I think Jon Jones was the next face of that company because, like you said, they had Rousey, they had McGregor. You need the next one. They don't have it right now.
Yeah, they don't.
All right, Raj, anything else before we take it home?
Just really, you know, our condolences to Dana Brooke. Her boyfriend passed away on Monday night, just shortly after speaking with her on the phone. So yeah, our condolences to Dana Brooke. I mean, that's just awful, awful news.
Yep, sad news there. Justin, where can folks find you on the internet? Some of your work, obviously Sports Illustrated, and tell us some things you're working on.
It has not posted yet, I don't believe. I look at the clock, but it's the Week in Wrestling today, and we've got interviews with Jerry the King Lawler, who wrestles Cody Rhodes this Friday night for the Ring of Honor World Title, as well as the Northeast Wrestling World Title. That's in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. So the King talked about that. There's a few other interviews in there that I think are noteworthy. I touched on Dolph Ziggler's comedy act from Friday night. It was midnight in New York. It was a fun scene. Drew McIntyre's in this week's edition. I touch on the Daniel Bryan podcast with Edgy Christian, as well as reasons why Cena was moved from SmackDown to Raw. And something that I'm looking forward to, and I think that it's so much fun to hear their voices, right? Because it's just hard to consistently watch New Japan. On Monday, we'll have a Q&A with G1 Climax winner Tetsuya Naito, and he kind of goes after the club. Yeah, so I'm excited to run that on Monday. And next week, we'll have another weekend. Every Wednesday, we have the Week in Wrestling on SI.com. I'm on Twitter at Justin Barrasso, and that should post shortly today. But so we're excited to. I think the King stuff's fun. He goes into Dusty, goes into Cody, and how he'll be winning his 169th world title this Friday. Yeah,
it's a great feature. Definitely check it out every Wednesday. I do. Real quick, I can't believe we forgot this. McGregor Mayweather. Your
my goodness! Wow.
I think that it's going to have to go at least 6-7 rounds, right? Like, they're two businessmen. They know what they're doing. I don't see any shot in the world how McGregor wins that fight. It's got to be Mayweather. But it's got to go 6 rounds, right? Because
you think Mayweather will purposely not try to turn it on to get the fight going a little later into the rounds?
Mayweather dances, right? So, like, he's designed to go long bouts anyway. But, man, you watch these two, and you watch McGregor, and he looks good. And then you watch Mayweather, and if you don't like Mayweather, and I know a lot of people don't like him, he's arguably on the short list of the greatest ever.
Yeah.
Man, I just don't know. It's such a spectacle. Also, Triple Mania on Saturday. So if you get tired of the fight, you can watch some Mexican Lucha Libre.
There you go.
Right.
But all right, so if they do this little code thing, right, where, hey guys, let's phone it in for 6-7 rounds, give them a couple little moments. What if McGregor goes off script a little bit and just lands a haymaker in the first round? Just going out.
I don't think they're planning any of this with each other or anything. Yeah. But I do think Mayweather, it's clear he wants people, you know, in their press conferences, all he has to say is, you have no business being in the ring with me. You know, I'm 50-0, you're 0-0. But instead, he's going off about, you know, how McGregor tapped, which makes which doesn't figure into a boxing fight. So he knows what to say, like, and then saying he's had a bad training camp and all this stuff. So he's saying stuff to get people believing that McGregor could win. Yeah. So on that end, he's a smart business guy.
Absolutely.
He's he's stupid too, in the sense that after these press conferences and the post interviews, he's like, "Oh, that was fun. You know, we had a good time." And instead of acting like he should be upset and heated. But anyway, they know what they're doing, but it's a real fight. And I'm sure McGregor is going to be looking for that win. And if he wins, if he got, slipped on a banana peel and won, that would be the biggest sports story in our, in recent memory.
Yeah.
And if they had a rematch after that, that would be even twice as big. And or McGregor's next boxing fight. I think he would be done with the UFC for sure forever, because the money he would make with his next boxing fight would eclipse anything he could do in the UFC, and he'd become an instant superstar. So
that's what they have to avoid. They have to avoid this evolving into Mickey Gall, CM Punk. Because if it's that one-sided, like obviously you lose interest in the next Punk fight. So you need McGregor to look decent, because I think that Mayweather goes to 50-0. That's a perfect number for him. He goes out as 50-0, you would think. And then the big thing is the next fight for McGregor. So that to me is, does McGregor look good enough for his next fight? Because that has to be the plan.
Yeah. And do you think he'll fight in the UFC again?
Depending on how this goes, if he looks halfway decent, no. And that's why, in my opinion, they were looking to go Jones-Lesnar, make Jones their next megastar. I think McGregor's done with the UFC, personally.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too.
Very cool. I'm sure we'll have a lot of news on WrestlingInc.com leading up to that fight this weekend. But until next time, we'll be back on Monday with Matt Morgan. And we'll see you back here on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. For Justin Barrasso, Raj Giri, I am Chris Callicutt. Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you, guys.